Today's topic is hyperreality. We are living in the hyperreal world now. Let us see how we are enjoying the hyperreal environment in the society. So I will present my presentation and we will discuss. So hyperreality, the perceptions of art and reality. First of all, I want to introduce cartography. Cartography means image making, that is structuring the environment of a place, creating the visual image of a situation or any environment, that is creating image making. So for that we need a person called cartographer. So a cartographer should have a keen eye for detail, as much of the work involves careful research and the collection and manipulation of data. And he must be having an interest in geography and the environment, an eye for layout and design, good spatial awareness and color vision, and IT knowledge, analytical ability and problem solving skills. Because he is the person who is designing the structure of the environment by creating images. See, for example, in a campus we can create this cartography to find out the overall arrangement in a campus. So it gives a clear view of the place, just like how you create map in the area of what do you say, atlas? No, you know, atlas. In atlas, what we see, we have the entire map of the world. So this is one part of cartography. So we are living in the copy world. It is more related to hyperreality. As per Jean Baudrillard, French sociologist and cultural theorist, that the world we live in has been replaced by a copy world, where we seek simulated stimuli and nothing more. Here I want to discuss about cartography. It means image making. Cartography is a study and practice of making and using maps, combining science, aesthetics and technique. Cartography builds on the premise that reality can be modeled in ways that communicate spatial information effectively. Cartographers are concerned with all aspects of map making. Baudrillard states the example of a society whose cartographers create a map so detailed that it covers the very things it was designed to represent. So these people create the world where we live in through visual art and visualize the actual environment where people survive with artifacts. Now we will see copy in art. Copy in art means creating copies of the originals. See, for example, there is an image here. This image is well known to all. So this is a copy print of Ravi Verma painting. So how we are using the copy reproduction and replicas, art reproduction, otherwise known as art replicas, fine art reproductions, reproduction oil paintings, art copies, are paintings that are hand painted by a professional artist. Reproducing the artwork increases the value of the original. Success of selling reproduction is very dependent on how well known an artist is, and in turn can increase the value of any of your original artworks, because the artist automatically become a better known artist whose work is recognized. So a artist work, if it is created as a copy, then the original work becomes more valid. So any original is reproduced becomes more valuable in the society. Just like we have calendars, so many calendars we have, there are a lot of images created by artists, they are converted into calendars and printed copies. Ravi Verma, our traditional Indian painter, has created many prints of his own works and displayed throughout the state. So he created an environment of the copy world. So now we will see what is hyperreality, the main topic of this webinar. Hyperreality in semiotics and postmodernism is an inability of consciousness to distinguish reality from a simulation of reality. Especially in technologically advanced postmodern societies, hyperreality is seen as a condition in which what is real and what is fiction are seamlessly blended together so that there is no clear distinction between where one ends and the other begins. It allows the co-mingling of physical reality with virtual reality and human intelligence with artificial intelligence. See, this is an image of reference for hyperreality. A sculpture, a human face is made into a huge size, which represents hyperreality. So at the final level, we enter hyperreality, a state where the physical and virtual worlds converge, where we can no longer distinguish between the two realities. But more importantly, the distinction wouldn't matter because people derive equal meaning and value from the simulated. Baudrillard's idea of hyperreality was heavily influenced by phenomenology, semiotics, and Marshall McLuhan. Baudrillard and Hiko explained that it is the unlimited existence of hyperreal numbers or non-standard reals, infinite and infinitesimal, that cluster about assumedly fixed or real numbers and factor through transference differentials. Baudrillard, however, challenges McLuhan's famous statement that the medium is the message by suggesting that information devours its own content. He also suggested that there is a difference between the media and reality and what they represent. Hyperreality is the inability of consciousness to distinguish reality from a simulation of reality, especially in technologically advanced societies. See, this is hyperreal painting. See the details and textures created in this. So more detailed of a original face gives hyperreal expression. So some examples I am sharing here. These are all hyperreal textures created in the human face. We can see the textural details here. Hyperreal photograph. So more detailed photograph which gives the actual skin texture and nerve details. A sculpture, you can see hyperreal sculpture. Some of the examples. See how detailed it needs for this kind of sculptures. Maximum bigger in size. Some hyperreal sculptures in the environment. One of the hyperreal piece, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel sculpture, huge size. Now we move to installation. Installation is a three-dimensional visual artwork often created for a specific place and designed to change the perception of space. So installation also becomes part of hyperreality because it creates a hyperreal environment. Something different in a place where it is not available. That is what we can say installation. Some garden we can create in a floor, or some different location we can create by installing things. See, this is an installation in a floor which creates a forest environment or a tree background mingled with concrete structures. These are all installations created by light. A hope tree. This is also a hyperreal situation. Light sculpture. An example. Some videos I want to play here. hyperrealism, although photographic in essence, often entails a softer, much more complex focus on the subject depicted, presenting it as a living, tangible object. These objects and scenes in hyperrealism paintings and sculptures are meticulously detailed to create the illusion of a reality not seen in the original photo. That is not to say they are surreal, as the illusion is a convincing depiction of simulated reality. Textures, surfaces, lighting effects, and shadows appear clearer and more distinct than the reference photo or even the actual subject itself. You can see the photography of egg omelette. See the a reality is more more expressed in photographic point of presentation. So these are all examples, and see this is another texture, a wall texture, which creates the more detailed surface pattern. This is one example for hyperrealism. So hyperrealist style focuses much more of its emphasis on details and the subjects. Hyperreal paintings and sculptures are not strict interpretations of photographs, nor are they literal illustrations of a particular scene or subject. Instead, they use additional, often subtle, pictorial elements to create the illusion of a reality which in fact either does not exist or cannot be seen by the human eye. Furthermore, they may incorporate emotional, social, cultural, and political thematic elements as an extension of the painted visual illusion, a distinct departure from the older and considerably more literal school of photorealism. A display, actually it is a carpet, but the extension is transferred into another perception. We will move to hypertext and hypermedia. Hypertext is text which contains links to other text. The term was coined by Ted Nelson around 1965. Hypermedia is a term used for hypertext which is not constrained to be text. It can include graphics, video, and sound. For example, apparently Ted Nelson was the first to use this term too. Hypertext and hypermedia are concepts, not products. Hypermedia is an extension to what is known as hypertext, or the ability to open new web pages by clicking text links on a web browser. Hypermedia extends upon this by allowing the user to click images, movies, graphics, and other media apart from text to create a non-linear network of information. Hypermedia refers to a unique kind of software environment that combines the characteristics of both hypertext and multimedia. The term multimedia has been around a long time, long before computers, but today it is usually used to describe the integration of text, graphics, animation, sound, video, and music in an interactive software environment. Packaged as an educational computer software where information is presented and students are integrated in virtual learning environment. So hypermedia is used in education and in various e-learning components. So tutorial software packages, knowledge web pages, stimulational instructional games, and learning management projects, etc. The presentation of information learning activities in hypermedia are sequenced in a non-linear manner. Example, pilot training simulation. The learner makes its own decisions on the path, flow, or events of instruction. The learner controls the sequence and pace of his path depending on his ability and motivation. Hypermedia includes more than one media but does not necessarily use all types of media in one presentation. Now we will move to amusement park. Some examples which are all related to hyperreality. An amusement park is a park that features various attractions such as rides and games as well as other events for entertainment purposes. A theme park is a type of amusement park that bases its structures and attractions around a central theme, often featuring multiple areas with different themes. They are more elaborate than city parks and playgrounds, usually providing attractions that cater to a variety of age groups. While amusement parks often contain themed areas, theme parks place a heavier focus with more intricately designed themes that revolve around a particular subject or group of subjects. Some examples of Queensland visuals. These are all hyperreal world situations. I think you would have been there. Then this is another image, adventure zone. Disneyland, Los Angeles, a hyperreal world. Disneyland magnetizes people inside and has been presented as imaginary to make people believe that all its surroundings are real. You will see the Disneyland video, tour of Disneyland Park. So I am taking you to Disneyland now. These are all virtual environment and created with hyperreal components.
I must keep my voice in top-notch shape. Me, 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 me.
You see a lot of set arrangements inside the campus. Lot of
Put your pocket.
characters. It's about the film. Campus inside the Disneyland, they use the real natural situation as well as with the created situations. So nature, that is real and unreal, merged here. Shall we go to the next slide? Just I want to brief about Disneyland. What you have seen, I think you have enjoyed the total campus of Disneyland. So Disneyland is a set of apparatus which tries to bring imagination and fiction to what is called real. The concepts most fundamental to hyperreality is that of simulation and the simulacrum. The two terms are separate entities with relational origin connections to Baudrillard's theory of hyperreality. Simulation is characterized by a blending of reality and representation, where there is no clear indication of where the former stops and the latter begins. Simulation is no longer that of a territory, a referential being, or a substance. It is the generation of models of a real without origin or reality, a hyperreal. Both Umberto Eco and Jean Baudrillard refer to Disneyland as an example of hyperreality. Eco believes that Disneyland, with its settings such as Main Street and full-sized houses, has been created to look absolutely realistic, taking visitors' imagination to a fantastic past. This false reality creates an illusion and makes it more desirable for people to buy this reality. Disneyland works in a system that enables visitors to feel that technology and the created atmosphere can give us more reality than nature can. The fake animals such as alligators and hippopotamus are all available to people in Disneyland and for everyone to see. The fake nature of Disneyland satisfies our imagination and daydream fantasies in real life. When entering Disneyland, consumers form into lines to gain access to each attraction. Then they are ordered by people with special uniforms to follow the rules, such as where to stand or where to sit. If the consumer follows each rule correctly, they can enjoy the real thing and see things that are not available to them outside of Disneyland. Theoreticians say that more and more people in modern culture exist in a state of hyperreality, often becoming more engaged with the hyperreal world than with the real world. Media, images, the internet, computer games, and virtual worlds are taking people out of the real world more often and for longer periods of time than ever before. As a result, their connection with the real world becomes blurred with the unreal, and it may become more important to take on the symbols than to achieve the reality. Some people, for example, may believe that they can be rock stars or celebrities just by acting as if they are. Every time a person enters a large shopping area with a certain theme, he or she may be entering a hyperreal world. Theme parks such as Disney World or the casinos in Las Vegas are hyperrealities in which a person can get lost for as long as his or money lost. There is no reality in these places, only a construct that is designed to represent reality, allowing the person to exist temporarily in a world outside of what is real. We are now in the era of postmodern hyperreality where images are no longer different from reality but generate our sense of reality by making us think that the stuff inside the frame is the real thing. The very purpose of this situation is to hide the fact that there is no true authentic reality, only the simulation of reality. Hyperreality could therefore be a useful recourse to describe the current state of culture, in which art may in fact be more real than the reality to which it relates to. In truth, one may recall Oscar Wilde's famous quote that proposed that life imitates art over 100 years ago. The reproduced is taking the place of reality or replacing it as hyperreality. We are living what has already been lived and reproduced with no reality anymore but that of the cannibalized as image. Some images of postmodernism I want to show here. Modern conceptual art, colorful poster with ancient statue of Venus de Milo, head and details of a living cat's face. Contemporary art collage. It is a contemporary art collage, blending the traditional and modern images. Blending the traditional and modern images, which what we say as postmodernism. Another example for postmodernism, collage with plaster antique sculpture of human face in a pop art style. Modern creative concept image with the ancient statue head. Zine culture, contemporary art poster, retro design, funky minimalism. It is called funky minimalism. The theory of postmodernism was founded. It became considerably popular with the academic system, besides solely being interlinked with literary criticism on architecture. It now finds itself overloaded with meaning and connected with social theory, cultural and media studies, visual arts, philosophy, and history. The postmodernism is indefinable, is a truism. It can be described as a set of critical, strategic, and rhetorical practices employing concepts such as difference, repetition, the trace, the simulacrum, and hyperreality to re-establish other concepts such as presence, identity, historical progress, epistemic certainty, and meaning. A major theme of Baudrillard's thoughts on postmodernism is the disappearance of the social. That is, the disappearance of the social relations between people and the meanings, significances, and values that they entail. In his thinking, we may have gone beyond the loss of the human self. The social relations between people have begun to disappear because humans have begun to disappear. Reality itself, that is what we have conventionally understood as real, is in a process of disappearance. Postmodernism is a blurring of the border line between humans and machines. Is a blurring of the borderline between humans and machines. A blurring of the line between reality and images. Postmodernism, in its fullest sense, is when machines, television sets, and computers unplug us, not the reverse. Baudrillard insists that we are witnessing the disappearance of the human, the social, and the real in the postmodern era. We are so enmeshed in this postmodern phenomenon that Baudrillard's profound thoughts on this subject will not immediately penetrate the reader's minds. According to Baudrillard, in the postmodern world, the new reality is that which can be simulated. If reality cannot be simulated, then it is not real. This means that when an image is a copy, duplicate, reproduction, or simulation of what is real, then the image is construed more real than the reality it replicates. When what is real is captured in an image, then the image takes on a higher reality and a life of its own, independent from us. The image, which constitutes a new reality, simulates or imitates what we no longer deem as real. Baudrillard refers to this new reality as hyperreality, which has outrun reality. Baudrillard states that it is the disappearance of things that fascinates us, and for me, the media are a place of disappearance. It is just as interesting as a place of production or a place of apparition. It is a place of disappearance. It is a place where meaning disappears, where significance, the message, the referent disappear. It is a way of making things circulate so quickly that they are made to disappear. And it fascinates us like a black hole. It is a place of disappearance. One is fascinated by the disappearance of things. And I think it's much the same with politics, with the social, etc. Today I think it's a society where we are haunted and fascinated by the disappearance of the social, by the disappearance of the political. But it's a game, a big game. It can make a lot of things happen, but it's no longer the production of things which interests us. Production interests, but disappearance fascinates. It's an image which shows the connectivity between human and machine. It's a postmodern art, a display of postmodern thinking, an art installation. This is a video about postmodern works displayed in a exhibition. This is another postmodern concept, making of cat face, making of real, more realistic, intricate details of making a face of the cat as a gift presentation. The artist has done a beautiful job making the in-depth details of the surface of the face of the cat. And these are all postmodern conceptual displays. One by one I want to share here. See the different techniques involved in presenting the hyperreal display. Some of the displays were done with different materials involved. Some architectural representations we can say as architectural sculptures with beautiful atmosphere. Some postmodern art related displays. A tunnel view, then it is called deconstructivism. Now it is a deconstruction, that is what you say, an architectural construction, that is making deconstructed images, splitting the image into that is detaching the concept of a architectural piece to show the inner aspirants of the subject. Some images I am showing here is all related to deconstructivism. It is a concept in postmodern period. Deconstruction is a form of criticism used by French philosopher Jacques Derrida in the 1970s, which asserts that there is not one single intrinsic meaning to be found in a work, but rather many, and often these can be conflicting. Deconstruction is breaking something down into smaller parts. Deconstruction looks at the smaller parts that were used to create an object. The smaller parts are usually ideas. Sometimes deconstruction looks at how an author can imply things he does not mean. Deconstructivism is a movement of postmodern architecture which appeared in the 1980s. Besides fragmentation, deconstructivism often manipulates the structure, surface, skin, and deploys non-rectilinear shapes which appear to distort and dislocate established elements of architecture. Deconstructivism is an artistic movement. It criticizes the rational order, purity, and simplicity of modern design and developed a new aesthetic based on complex geometrics. It's often considered a current of postmodernism. Frankie Jaggery, Daniel Libeskind, Zaha Hadid, Bernard Tchoumi, Peter Einsman, and others were the pioneering figures of the groundbreaking deconstructivism movement. Removing the essence of architecture was the summarized goal of deconstructivism. Next, we can see a park, a grand park in Paris. It has a lot of infrastructure and beautiful hyperreal environment. The Parc de la Villette is one of the largest parks in Paris that now has the largest science museum in Europe. Theaters and music halls and much more to discover. Yet started out as an abattoir or slaughterhouse for cattle. You can see the video posted here. You will get the feel of the hyperreal environment. This is actually Beijing New Year video, which has got an outstanding hyperreal lighting effects, which is one of the presentations you need to understand with postmodernism and hyperreality. That's why I am sharing this video here. You can see the beautiful virtual effects which has done a you'll get a beautiful experience. That's why I am sharing here. Thank you for patient listening of this hyperreal presentation. Thank you once again, everyone.